In the ancient world, warfare was not only fought with swords, shields, and strategies devised on the battlefield, but also with the stars above. For rulers believed that the heavens offered guidance and hidden knowledge about the fate of armies and the outcome of wars. Before the clash of spears and the march of troops, many kings consulted astrologers, men trained to read the sky and interpret the shifting positions of planets and constellations, seeing in their movements omens of victory or warnings of disaster. Astrology in warfare was more than superstition. It was embedded in the worldview of civilizations that saw the cosmos as a living map, where divine forces communicated with mortals through patterns of light written in the heavens. In Mesopotamia, where some of the earliest forms of astrology were developed, military leaders relied on celestial omens recorded on clay tablets, which warned them when eclipses or conjunctions might signal danger to the king's reign. The Babylonians believed the stars reflected the will of the gods, and to march under unfavorable skies was to risk angering those higher powers, so they often delayed campaigns until the heavens appeared more favorable. Egyptian pharaohs also turned to the stars, for their priest astronomers were experts in reading the cycles of Sirius and the constellations that aligned with the Nile, believing that these patterns could offer insight not only into harvests but also into war. In Greece, generals were known to seek the wisdom of astrologers before embarking on military ventures, combining the tactical brilliance of human intellect with what they saw as divine sanction from the cosmos. Alexander the Great himself is said to have been guided by astrologers, who interpreted celestial signs as affirmations of his destiny to conquer vast territories stretching from Greece to the edges of India. In Rome, astrology became both a tool of power and a subject of suspicion, for emperors like Augustus used it to reinforce their legitimacy, while others feared it might reveal too much about their fate in times of rebellion and war. Soldiers often marched under banners blessed by auspicious alignments, believing that Mars, the god of war, offered strength when his position in the sky supported their campaigns, and that unfavorable omens required rituals to appease the gods. Astrology in ancient warfare was not just about knowing when to attack, but also about choosing where to set camp, which routes to march, and even how to interpret the weather, all seen through the lens of the stars' influence. When eclipses darkened the sun or blood-red moons rose in the night, entire armies trembled, seeing them as signs that battles would end in ruin unless commanders performed sacrifices to realign their fortunes. In China, the art of reading the heavens was deeply intertwined with governance and war, for court astrologers advised emperors on the timing of campaigns, with the belief that harmony between heaven and earth determined victory. The mandate of heaven itself was thought to be reflected in celestial order. So, if an emperor ignored omens and led troops under an inauspicious sky, defeats were seen as signs he had lost divine favor. Throughout history, astrology gave kings a sense of control in the face of uncertainty, for the chaos of war demanded any form of guidance that could tilt the scales toward victory, or at least offer reassurance to anxious rulers. Some rulers consulted the stars not only before great campaigns, but also during battles, sending messengers to astrologers who observed the heavens in real time, interpreting sudden changes in weather or unexpected celestial events. These astrologers often carried immense influence, for their interpretations could shift the mood of entire armies, encouraging soldiers to fight bravely under promised victory or sowing hesitation under a shadow of predicted loss. Astrology also played a psychological role, as soldiers who believed the heavens supported their cause often fought with greater confidence, while their enemies could be demoralized by the same signs seen as unfavorable. In many cases, kings used astrology as propaganda, announcing that the stars had foretold their triumph, thereby strengthening the morale of their people and instilling fear in their opponents. Astrological charts were drawn to align coronations, military oaths, and declarations of war with moments of celestial significance, embedding the fate of nations into the rhythm of the skies. The knowledge of astrologers was so valued that conquering kings often spared them, taking them into their courts to secure their services, ensuring their campaigns remained aligned with heavenly favor. Yet, not all astrologers agreed, and rival interpretations could spark debates within courts, with one reading promising success and another warning of disaster, leaving rulers to decide whose voice to trust. Despite disagreements, astrology remained a central element of decision-making, for ignoring the stars was seen as arrogance, an act of defiance against the divine order of the cosmos. Even in defeat, rulers explained losses by pointing to overlooked omens or misread signs, preserving their faith in astrology by blaming human error rather than questioning the heavens themselves. The practice endured across centuries, from Mesopotamia to the medieval courts of Europe, where kings and generals still consulted astrologers to guide their armies during crusades and dynastic wars. Though modern warfare no longer turns to astrologers for guidance, the history of battles shaped by the stars reminds us how deeply human beings sought patterns in the sky to find meaning in life and death struggles. Astrology gave rulers not just tactical timing but also a sense of destiny, convincing them that their wars were not only justified but also divinely supported by forces greater than themselves. For soldiers, this belief transformed fear into courage, allowing them to march into danger with the conviction that the stars themselves had promised victory, even in the face of overwhelming odds. In the end, astrology in ancient warfare reveals the human desire to bridge heaven and earth, to seek cosmic assurance when standing at the threshold of life and death, and to find order in the chaos of battle. And though the stars no longer dictate the timing of modern wars, their ancient role in guiding kings and shaping history lingers as a reminder that humanity has always looked upward for guidance in moments of greatest peril. For thousands of years, war was not simply determined by the size of an army or the strength of its weapons. Kings and great commanders often looked to the heavens, seeking answers among the stars. Astrology became an invisible weapon. They believed the positions of the planets and zodiac signs could determine when to march, when to attack, and even when to defend. From Babylon to Rome, from Egypt to ancient China, rulers consulted astrologers before making crucial decisions on the battlefield. For them, victory was not just a matter of strategy, but also of the blessing of the cosmos. This is the story of how astrology once played a secret part in the art of laughter. Astrology in ancient warfare.